It has been 5 years since I made a video going over the best NHL player from every country, and a lot can change in the NHL over the course of 5 years. So I thought now, especially with the World Championships going on, it would be a good time to make an updated version of that video and go over the best NHL player from every country in 2025. One thing I want to make sure I clarify before we get started, just to avoid any confusion, I didn't make this list based off of where players were born. I made this list based off of players' nationality. For an example, William Nylander was born in Calgary, but he's Swedish. He's always played for Team Sweden in international play. Another example is Alexander Georgiev. He was born in Bulgaria, but his nationality is Russian. He moved to Russia when he was 1, and that is the country that he represents in international play. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and start the video off with Australia, and by default, this spot belongs to Nathan Walker of the St. Louis Blues, as he's the only Aussie currently playing in the NHL, and the only Aussie that has ever played in the NHL for that matter. So if this was an all-time list, he would still get this spot, and Nathan Walker is actually coming off of probably the best season he's had in his NHL career to date. He carved himself out a really nice role on the St. Louis Blues fourth line as a physical defensive specialist. He was top 10 in the league in hits, finished the season with a career-high 16 points, and also scored 3 goals for the St. Louis Blues in their first-round series against the Winnipeg Jets. Next up, we have Austria. Definitely have to give an honorable mention to Marco Kasper, who just had a really strong rookie season for the Red Wings and has been a beast for Austria in the World Championships that are currently going on, but this spot definitely still belongs to Marco Rossi, the Minnesota Wild's 9th overall selection from the 2020 draft. Rossi is coming off of a very strong sophomore season where he put up career highs across the board: 24 goals, 36 assists, 60 points in 82 games. Despite that, he's a player whose name is consistently floating around in trade rumors, which I don't really get. He is a restricted free agent this offseason, so maybe negotiations between him and the Wild haven't gone the greatest. But if I'm Minnesota, this is a player that I'm doing everything in my power to lock up long term, because at just 23 years old, he's already proven to be a very effective top 6 center. Moving on now to Belarus, and after a huge breakout season with the Washington Capitals, this spot definitely goes to Alexei Protas. There are some other notable players like Igor Sharangovich and Chicago's 2nd overall draft pick from 2024, Artem Levshinov, but neither of those guys came close to having the kind of season that Protas did. He put up career highs across the board: 30 goals, 36 assists, 66 points in 76 games, despite the fact that he doesn't get any power play time. Protas finished 9th in the entire NHL this past season in even strength points per 60 minutes, and he actually had more points shorthanded than he did on the power play. Just an absolute beast of an all-around forward, and after just 1 season, I think it's safe to say his contract is already one of the more team-friendly deals in the entire NHL. Moving on now to Canada, I do want to give big honorable mentions to players like Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon, but in my opinion, not only the best Canadian in the NHL, but the best player in the world right now is still Connor McDavid. Despite the fact that McDavid missed 15 games during the regular season, he still finished 6th in the league in points. If you go by points per game, he finished the season tied with his teammate Leon Draisaitl for 2nd, only behind Nikita Kucherov, and he's having yet another dominant postseason as the Edmonton Oilers currently find themselves in the Western Conference Finals again, and McDavid is just 1 point back of Mikko Rantanen for the league lead in playoff scoring. Next up, we have Czechia. There are no shortage of talented Czech players currently in the NHL, but the best is far and away David Pastrnak, who this past season on a very bad Boston Bruins team still managed to put up 106 points, which was his 3rd consecutive 40-plus goal, 100-plus point season. I'm interested to see what the future holds for David Pastrnak if the Boston Bruins aren't able to turn things around next season. Although Pastrnak is locked up through the 2030-31 season, is he somebody that they would ever consider trading? Because the return for a guy like Pastrnak, who's in his prime, still just 28 years old, would be huge and could really set the Boston Bruins up for the future. Moving on now to Denmark, some solid names here with guys like Lars Eller, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Freddie Anderson, but I definitely think this spot has to go to Nikolai Ehlers, who is the highest scoring Dane in NHL history. He's coming off of another strong season where he finished with 63 points in 69 games, which was his 2nd consecutive 20-plus goal, 60-plus point season. He was also very good and scored some huge goals for the Jets in the postseason, and just the other day, he played a huge part in what was one of the biggest upsets in international hockey history as Denmark knocked off Canada in the quarterfinals of the World Championships championships, a Canadian team that was made up of only NHL players with the exception of Porter Martone and was headlined by the likes of Nathan MacKinnon and Sidney Crosby, whereas Denmark only had 2 active NHL players on the team, one of which was obviously Nikolai Ehlers and the other was Jonas Rönnberg. Moving on now to Finland, I might catch a bit of heat for this one. Big honorable mentions to guys like Sebastian Aho and Alexander Barkov, but I'm going with Mikko Rantanen here, who obviously had a bit of a roller coaster of a regular season playing for 3 different teams, but he still managed to finish with 88 points, and he's obviously been an absolute monster so far for the Dallas Stars in the postseason. He's currently the league leader in playoff scoring, and he pretty much single-handedly won Dallas that first-round series against Colorado with that insane third-period performance in Game 7. Next up, we have France, and now that guys like Pierre-Edouard Bellemare and Antoine Roussel are no longer playing in the NHL, this spot by default goes to Alexander Texier, who appeared in 31 games for the Blues during the regular season and 3 playoff games. He's the only active NHL player from France. Moving on now to Germany, obviously big honorable mentions to guys like Tim Stützle and Moritz Seider, but this spot definitely belongs to Leon Draisaitl, who is one of the best players in the entire league. He's scored 100 or more points in 6 out of the last 7 seasons, and just like last year where Edmonton made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, he is having yet another dominant playoff run as he is tied with Connor McDavid for second in playoff scoring. Moving on now to Latvia, definitely some notable names here with guys like Zemgus Girgensons and Teddy Bluger, but I'm going to go with Elvis Merzlikins here, who didn't have a great season when you look at his individual numbers, a goals against average north of 3 and a sub 900 save percentage. However, he still finished the season with a positive record as he was able to win 26 out of the 53 games he appeared in. Next up, we have the Netherlands, and this spot by default goes to Daniel Sprong as he is the only option. After a couple of strong years with Seattle and Detroit producing really well in a depth role, Daniel Sprong really struggled this season. He ended up playing for 3 different teams, Vancouver, Seattle, and New Jersey, and he spent some time in the American Hockey League. Next up, we have Norway, and this spot definitely belongs to Mats Zuccarello, who is aging like fine wine. Another very strong season for him, finishing with 54 points in 69 games, which was his 4th consecutive season with 50 or more points. He has been a very important player for Minnesota for a long time now, and not only is he the best current Norwegian NHL player, he is by far the best of all time. But you do have to start to wonder how much longer he's going to be able to produce at this rate for. Moving on now to Russia, obviously no shortage of great options here. Big honorable mentions to guys like Alexander Ovechkin, Artemi Panarin, and Kirill Kaprizov, but this spot definitely has to go to Nikita Kucherov, who is in the conversation for being the best player in the entire NHL. He has won the Art Ross Trophy as the league's leading goal scorer now in back-to-back seasons, and although his performance in the first round of the playoffs against the Florida Panthers may have left a sour taste in some people's mouths, I'm not going to let that cloud my judgment. Nikita Kucherov is hands down the best Russian in the NHL right now. Moving on now to Slovakia, some solid options here with guys like Eric Chernak and Martin Ferivari, but I'm actually going to go with the youngster and give this spot to Juraj Slafkovsky, the Montreal Canadiens' first overall selection from 2022. He had a bit of a slow start to the season, but really picked it up during the second half and managed to reach the 50-point mark for the 2nd consecutive season, and was a big reason why Montreal went on that great run to close out the season and ended up making the playoffs. Next up, we have Slovenia, and by default, this spot goes to Anže Kopitar, as he's the only active NHL player from Slovenia, and only one of 3 in NHL history. Anže Kopitar is one of the more consistent two-way centers of this generation. Similar to what I said about Mats Zuccarello, he is aging like fine wine. At 37 years old, he is still producing at the same rate he has produced at pretty much throughout his entire career. Moving on now to Sweden. I had a bit of a tough time with this one. I want to give big honorable mentions to guys like William Nylander, Victor Hedman, and Lucas Raymond, but I'm actually going to go with Jesper Bratt as the best current Swedish NHL player. In my opinion, one of the most underrated players in the entire NHL. He set a new career high in points this past season with 88. A bit undersized, but extremely fun to watch, shifty, elusive, and definitely one of the bigger draft steals in recent memory. This guy was a 6th round pick by the Devils in 2016. Moving on now to Switzerland, and I'm actually going to go with another New Jersey Devil here, the captain, Nico Hischier. Obviously, huge honorable mention to Roman Josi, but because he missed a large chunk of the season, that's why I decided to give the edge to Nico Hischier, who finished this season setting a new career high in goals with 35 and putting up 60-plus points for the 4th consecutive season. His defensive numbers did fall off a little bit, but he's somebody we know is capable of being one of the better two-way centermen in the league, as he was a finalist for the Selke Trophy back in 2023. And now finally, finishing up the video with the United States, no shortage of great options here. I could go on and on with honorable mentions, so I'll only name a few. Austin Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Eichel, Kyle Connor, but my pick for the best right now in 2025 is going to be Connor Hellebuyck. Similar to what I said about Nikita Kucherov, I don't want to let a poor postseason performance cloud my judgment here because Connor Hellebuck's regular season that he put together was unbelievable. One of the best seasons we've seen from a goaltender in quite a long time. He's going to win the Vezina Trophy. He's a finalist for the Hart Trophy as well. He very well could end up winning it. If you think this spot should have went to someone else because of Hellebuck's inability to show up in the playoffs, then I'm not going to argue with you, but I do feel like you could use that argument against Austin Matthews as well. I'm really interested to hear your guys' take on this, so let me know down below in the comments, who do you think is the best American NHL player right now? So that is going to wrap up today's video, going over the best NHL player from every country in 2025. If you made it all this way to the end of the video and you ended up enjoying yourself, please remember to leave a like. It's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed, and it does help with the videos a ton. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year round, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all again soon.